Welcome to the Dream Power Show, where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Well, I have a question for you. When is a rock not a rock? When you come to realize that many stones, including crystals, have many useful properties. And we're going to talk about this with my guest, Jolie Demarco. Jolie discovered the power of crystals when she was a child, and since then, she's cataloged the properties of hundreds of crystals and has taught and guided countless people on how to use these precious stones in their lives. She's also an inspirational speaker, professional intuitive, and is known as the Crystal Junkie. She's the author of 8 books, including her latest, High Vibes Crystal Healing, Crystal Frequencies That Will Rock Your World. And with that, welcome to the Dream Power Show, Jolie.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
I'm so glad you're here because, Jolie, I have to admit right from the outset, I'm not an expert on crystals, but I do like to play around with them. In fact, a few years ago, I picked up some crystal wands at a convention, mostly because I liked their colors. Then I brought them home, tried them out, and I could feel a little change in my energy level, and sometimes I even found that they were able to lift my mood. And there's one in particular that eases my husband's back pain when I rub it on him. So my question to you is this: why? What makes crystals so powerful?
Well, crystals are very magical. They basically have energy. So there's a little bit of science to it and a little bit of metaphysical kind of woo-woo to it. But basically, everything is energy in the universe. And crystals hold vibrations, just like we do as people. And different crystals have different properties in them, which can emit different energies from their aura around their sense. So basically, they're emitting and giving us energy through their properties. I like to, do you remember which one that wand was that you put on his back? I could kind of maybe give you a little info on that.
I don't have them with me. Otherwise, I could show you. So we'll have to guess.
One to put on your back, a really good one that would help with like skeletal and things like that would be a red jasper. So maybe it was a red jasper.
Maybe that was it, because I know it was a red one.
Yeah, red. If it was kind of more of a bright red, it would be red jasper. If it was a garnet, garnets actually are really good for kidneys, actually lower back problems because your kidneys are back there too, so it can kind of work on that. But crystals are actually more fun than just, using them for ailments, right? We could use them to go out of body. We can use them for a spiritual connection. There's so many different ways that we can use them.
So one thing that I didn't know and was made aware of when I read your book is that there are crystals that can help us with our dreaming. So you could tell us what they are and how they work?
Absolutely. Some of my favorite crystals are crystals that you can use for vivid dreaming. And one particular is called the apophyllite crystal. I actually call it the unicorn crystal because you could put it on your third eye, just like this, and sleep with it. If you knock it off, it's still going to be close to your head and that aura of your crown and third eye chakra. And apophyllite not only can help you with your dreamings, it helps you with past life regression too. So if you believe in past lives or parallel lives, it can open up that part of you as well. So they're kind of fun to experiment with.
So when you use a crystal to help you dream, you put it on your third eye. Is that how you use it?
Or as long as you put it like near your head, third eye area, or above the crown of your head, it's close enough to it. If it doesn't stay on your body, it's okay. It's still in the energy field there. But another good one that you might try is called Herkimer diamonds. And you could only find them in Herkimer, New York. And they're a tiny, tiny little crystal, beautiful like diamonds because they are diamonds. And if you put them near your bed, I usually tape them because they're like smaller than a dime, because it could be quite pricey if they're bigger. And I tape it to my pillow so this way I don't lose it. And the dreams that you get with that would be not past life per se, but most of them are very vivid. They feel super real. So it's really amazing. And sometimes you could connect with past loved ones that way as well.
So you say crystals have energy. How does it actually translate into getting into our subconscious to help us dream?
With your subconscious, well, the way that I work with crystals, can I give you an example of another crystal?
Sure.
Okay, so there's a crystal called lepidolite. We call it the Prozac stone because it helps helps your moods kind of stay more even, right? Just like the, pharmaceutical Prozac. So lepidolite actually has lithium in it. So part of its actual properties with the lithium can help us stabilize our moods. And if you think of crystals as vitamins from the earth, which they really are, because then basically our vitamins were originally crystals, and then we took out the properties of the ground and put some pharmaceutical or other products with them to make vitamins and or pharmaceutical drugs. So we're kind of going back to the natural way of using crystals to affect our energy. We don't have to ingest them, however, but putting them in our energy field, it takes a good 20 minutes before the energy of a crystal, its aura and its properties, goes through our energy field, which we have several layers of our aura. And when it hits to our physical, then it could hit our conscious, subconscious, your emotional, mental, and spiritual fields. So that's how it affects us with its vibrations.
Let's say there's somebody watching this who's now getting intrigued by the idea of crystals. What do you say to them? How do they get started?
First time, I would tell you to go to a crystal shop, any local crystal shop, and just walk in and just look at all the crystals visually, and then start to allow yourself to feel them, the ones that you're drawn to. I always tell people to pick 3 crystals that you're drawn to out of a multiple. You might see 50 or 100 there. And pick those 3 crystals and just hold them up to your heart chakra, and you'll kind of feel like a yes or a no with them. And then from there, you could look up, there's books, of course, you could use my book, High Vibe Crystal Healing, or any kind of reference book with crystals, and you can see what the uses are for them, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. And then you can start to learn why your body needed that crystal. And 9 times out of 10, your body's going to tell you what you need, and that's why you get attracted to it. So it's kind of fun to do that. And every day we change, right? Because every day we're a little bit different with our emotions, different things happen in life. So you might not need the same crystal all the time. So if you create a little collection of them, then when you have your own collection, instead of going to the crystal store all the time, you can choose the one that's working for you that day.
That makes sense. Are there 1 or maybe 2 crystals that you would consider universal crystals that are beneficial to everyone?
Yes, that's a good question. So basically, amethyst is a crystal that's pretty common. We could get it in Brazil and Uruguay. It's a purple crystal, and most people have seen that one in jewelry, and it's most common. And that one actually helps us have nice sleep, so it helps you relax. It gives you good dreams also. Opens up your third eye, but it's a very relaxing stone. So even people that have disorders with sleeping can really benefit from that crystal. But amethyst in general is just a very relaxing stone, universal. It's great to put in your home, not only sleep with, but in your home for the energy to feel good in your home space. Very relaxing, comfortable feeling energy.
You talked about the dreaming crystals that you put on your third eye, but how do you use other crystals in your everyday life?
A lot of women, well, they say women live longer than men because we wear jewelry, but now more men are wearing jewelry as well because they're realizing that the crystals actually are working for our bodies. Because all crystals can help you release, balance, adjust, or help you advance in your life. So it's interesting how you can use certain ones for certain things that you need. But as far as, picking out your crystals and utilizing what you need, like I said, keeping a collection.
You mention it, I do have a clear crystal that I keep in my purse. Does that help me? Or do I have to carry it around closer to me?
As long as the crystal is in your energetic field, in your aura, your electromagnetic field, which is 3 feet around your body approximately, it's going to work with your energy. So in your purse, you're holding your purse for a long period of time when we're shopping. Of course, it's going to work for your energy. Yeah, it would definitely work on you. I have a top 11 crystal list that I call like your little emergency kit that you should keep in your purse. This way, like, I always think of it like a little aspirin or pick me up for friends. Like, so if somebody's having a bad day, I got a stone for that. I always say, I got a stone for that. Then like I look on my little list, and you could choose, like, I kind of give everybody a little list. If they go on my website, they can check it out and for free and see what the crystals are. And it's just a neat little package that you could keep in your purse. One's for like abundance, making money, bringing more abundance into your life. Another one's for focus and clarity. That one's called white howlite. There's another one that's called citrine. That one brings happy energy into your life. I have a ruby zoisite that is what I call get her done stone. So it kind of put some energy in you so you're motivated and get things done. So there's a lot of different ones that can work for different things for people.
You talk about crystals having different property and doing different things for healing, calming, pain, and the like. What are some of the different classifications of crystals?
I've kind of made my own classifications with them. So there's ones for healing, and there's ones for connected to your spirit. There's ones that are for like I said, physical healing, but there's also emotional and mental healing. So basically those would be like the basics of it. But as far as like harmonizing crystals together, the knowledge of knowing how to do crystal healing is what makes it such an art and makes it so valuable to people, because a lot of the crystals are great feeling in general, but when you do a body layout on somebody, if you put crystals together that counteract their energies, for example, if you used amethyst as relaxing you, and then you used a stone called ruby zozite that's going to motivate you, they kind of aren't helping you, right? Because they're opposites of what you're trying to do, depending on the purpose that you need it for. Right. So, sometimes when I see women or young girls wearing a whole bunch of bracelets on, I look over to see if they're harmonizing together, and I'm like, do you ever feel a little confused? And sometimes the young girls are like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, well, because you got a lot of crystals. One's telling you to do this, the other one's telling you to do that. Maybe you just cut them down or put these together and these together. So it's kind of neat once you get educated, then you realize you're like, whoa, it totally makes sense.
Right. Okay. We're talking about body layouts. And in your book, you have 26 different body layouts. So can you explain what a body layout is and how it works?
So in the book, I made it really easy for anybody from a beginner to even a seasoned healer that does maybe Reiki or any kind of energy healing to adapt to use it in their practice. But if you're a beginner, it's really great because I tell you like kind of exactly what you need. I have a what you need list. It gives you the crystals and essence to make a whole set, a whole session, by yourself, and how long you should do it, where the crystals should be on your body. So crystal healing is about harmonizing crystals around your body for your special needs, whatever it might be to you, whether you need to advance in your life because you have some goals you want to get to, whether you want to release some old energy from an old relationship, or attracting money, or if you just want to take a nice trip out of your body. There's crystals specifically for each one of those. And so I have about 5 to 6 different layouts for each one of those categories. So this way you can connect to a loved one that's passed away, or you can just float out of your body and have a good time, or you can reach those goals that you want so badly to help you get there to that level of contentment in your life. So it's really fun. I take you through a whole journey of progression throughout that. And there's also ones for physical healing. One that's a really favorite that a lot of people have been using lately with their kids is one for ADHD, helps them have more focus. So there's a great grid in there for that. And it's easy because even though, they might not have focus, they can have the crystals around them and fall asleep. And this way it kind of works with their energy as they're sleeping.
So my final question to you is, how can people find out more about you, Jolie, and about your books?
They could go to joliedemarco.com. They can also go to Llewellyn as my publisher, so they can go to llewellynworldwide.com if they want to order the books through them. They could also receive it on Barnes and Nobles and all the stores right now. It's physically in the store. This is kind of a book to me that you would want to have as a hard copy. So I would tell people to go into Barnes and Nobles and get it there, or they could order it and have it one day for you. Even though you could order it online, I just feel like it's something that you definitely want a hard copy of.
It's important to support our local bookstores too.
Local businesses, we need to support them, or crystal stores. Absolutely.
We've been speaking with crystals expert Jolie Demarco on the Dream Power Show. We'll be right back with our next guest. When is a car not a car? When it shows up in your dreams. Cars are one of the most common dream symbols. If you don't know why you're dreaming about cars or any image, it can leave you confused or scared. But that dream could be a solution to a pressing problem, or an insight into a solution that's been bugging you for years. Go to my website and sign up for a complimentary discovery session, and I'll help you understand why a dream is a terrible thing to waste. And as I like to say, dreams come in all shapes and sizes. There are the nighttime dreams, They're as varied as the flecks of sand on the beach. Then there are the daytime dreams that spark ideas, inventions, and new ways of thinking. But above all else, what makes dreams worthwhile is when you follow them. And that's the path that was taken by my guest today, Suzie Plakson. Suzie's quest to follow her dreams led her to fulfill her dream to be an actor. She went from Broadway to Hollywood, where she's appeared in numerous movies and TV shows. I brought her on today to talk about her new project, a book called The Return of King Lillian, which is a dream all unto itself. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Suzie.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I'm so excited to be here. Hello, Dream Power audience. How are you today?
I'm sure they're waving their hellos to you too.
Oh, good. Hello, hello.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about The Return of King Lillian, which is a fantastic fantasy novel. It's my understanding that it too was inspired by a dream. So can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. Actually, it was inspired by a series of dreams over a period of a few decades. The first one came to me when I was knocking my head against the wall in New York City, trying to be an actor and being spectacularly unsuccessful. And I had what I call a flash dream, which is about the length of what is now commonly called, I hate this word, GIF, G-I-F. In other words, it's a moment of movement. And I saw a tall woman with long red hair. This was before I had red hair. And she was riding a gorgeous, gleaming chestnut steed, slightly up a hill, underneath a cathedral archway of gigantic trees. And she had a purple musketeer type hat on, and she had a red velvet cape on, scarlet velvet. And then she disappeared underneath the trees. And it was, as I say, literally a moment in time, but it was hologrammatic of this world. And it imprinted itself on my psyche so deeply. And I sort of cherished this little vision for a while. And I think I called her a female Don Quixote. I didn't know what she was called, but that's what it looked like to me. And then maybe, I'm not a big chronological time person, so don't put me on a witness stand without coaching, but it could be a year later that I had another flash dream, and then another, and it just began to completely, I won't say obsessed because that word sounds so feverish, but it began to inspire me. And it harpooned my heart, as I say. And as time went by, I began to just play with the world. And I'm, I never considered myself a writer, certainly not at that time. So I was cursing the heavens and saying, why me? You need Charles Dickens, leave me alone. But it was mine to do.
So what did inspire you to actually go ahead and turn these images into a novel?
That was a long time in coming, because as I say, I never considered myself a writer, let alone a writer of novels. And I think it was a soul imperative, I like to say, to birth it as the thing it most wanted to be. So to truncate the story, as the years went by, I began to play with dialogue, play with scenes, play with story arc, all of that. And all of that was developed, and I was walking around with massively pregnant with this world, this story, these characters, clueless as to how to bring them to the world. I tried to write a teleplay. I tried to write a movie. None of it was taking. But each time I did it, each time I played, even though it felt like failure, I learned and gleaned so much. And then we always think my dear friend Kristen Overn, who's an old brilliant buddy of mine from Northwestern University, we always think we signed up for this in between lifetimes. We discovered that we lived about 5 minutes from each other in Los Angeles, and that is in and of itself kind of a synchronicitous miracle. And Kristen is the founder and director of the Page International Screenwriting Awards, and a very brilliant person. And we ended up working together. She directed my music video called Didn't Want to Do It. We had a blast. And I was then whining to her that I had this huge world, and what was I going to do with it, and how was I going to, and finally she had the time to hear it pitched to her, because people are always pitching things to her. And we just began to realize that the form it should take was, first, it was when ebooks were just beginning to come out. Like, oh, I can write it and make it this whatever. And then I would read the chapters to her. I would drive to her house, read the chapters to her, and she'd say, we got to make this an audiobook. So that's really important for your audience to know too. The audiobook is, it has been released at the same time that the novel, and the novel has been released, because that was a delicious thing to do. I think there are about 50 characters, I haven't really counted. It just became apparent when I was going through all of the material that I'd accumulated all those years. I pulled out one that was a diary, and I began to read it out loud just because. And immediately I went, oh, that's it. It's a diary. And by the way, the diary thing came from a dream as well. Just the notion to even play with it. There were only a few pages. And then that was it, off to the races. So the lion's share of the book is told by Lillian in diary form. And then there's a wraparound story at the very beginning, which is the prologue, and part 3, which is called The Beginning. And that's Lillian's origin story told by an omniscient narrator, but most of it's told by Lillian. So that's the long-winded answer to your question, how it became this novel, because I would never have elected to write that myself, I promise you.
Yeah, I want to step back for a second about what you said about starting from a dream, and even the idea of it being, the diary coming from a dream. I want to impress upon, this audience, the importance of remembering any dream, whether it's a teeny tiny little image or a tiny anything, because that alone can open up worlds for you. I've told the story.
Yes, it can.
About the one word dream that literally changed my life, which was just one word, not even the image, just the word that came in the dream. And that sparked a whole thing. Because I paid attention to it, just like you paid attention to this image.
Wow.
You just drilled into it until it actually was able. It was like growing a seed. You planted the seed, and then it blossomed and blossomed.
It's exactly it. I think of it actually. I totally think of it as a light seed.
Mm-hmm.
That absolutely has been watered and cultivated, and when you shine your own light onto it, that is your attention and your devotion to it, then it grows and grows and grows.
Right. One of the things that I'm kind of curious about is you have a wonderful cast of supporting characters to Lillian. Did you dream them up also?
First off, thank you so much. I adored them. I didn't dream those per se. Generally speaking, in the dreams that I had, the flash dreams that I had, I would see Lillian. But they sort of, you kind of reel in an idea from the other side, from the unmanifest, as it were. And along with Lillian came these other characters, and they populated the world. So I suppose it's a from unconscious to conscious dreaming. So in that manner, yes, I suppose so.
I want to get back to actually the story itself, because the main theme of the story was Lillian's to find home. Do you see this also as a universal quest for all of us to find the place where we belong?
I love that. I love the way you just said it. And I'd say yes, because it almost brought tears to my eyes. The way you just said it. Absolutely. I didn't, once again, have that in my mind when I welcomed the story in. But Yes. I mean, some people see whatever they see in this story, but there are many people who've seen that. Someone said it's the story of a soul and the story of the soul. And I sometimes think is it a fool on a soul's journey or a soul on a fool's journey? And by fool, I mean, of course, the archetype from the tarot, just the innocent.
Early on in her adventures, she enters the forest of forgetfulness. And when I first read this, I thought about dreams, because they can be so vivid and so real to us, and yet they can disappear so easily if we don't, write them down or remember them. So did you see the forest?
Yes, of course.
A metaphor for dreams?
No, I didn't see anything as a metaphor for anything else. Really knowing, something in me knew, because of course I love myth and I've always loved fairy tales. Yes, there is always resonance, but the symbol came before what it symbolized. In other words, the forest of forgetfulness just was there and just came to me for Lillian to wander into. There was no, this will be mythically indicative of X, Y, and Z. So it just was part of the fantasy and part of the world. WHIRLD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to get to that because you spell world and the whole wide world, which she refers to as the world, you spell it differently from the way we usually do. Was that intentional, and why?
Yes. Again, no, but intentionally, when you get all sorts of ideas about something to do artistically, something may feel right, but is it confusing? Is it, you have to ask yourself all those questions. And that's a lot of what Kristen Overn and I did. There was lots of, does that make sense? Because that's what is coming out naturally. WYDE, WHIRLD. And there was something about it that felt so right to me, in the same way that it felt always right to me the way that Lillian talks, that there's something sort of quirky and just I remember Kristen had once said to me, when I think we were probably 6 chapters in, and she called me one night and she said, she was talking about how much she was getting into enjoying it and we were having such a good time, and she said something about how she liked, and she thought it was so wonderful how Lillian's verbs or use of verbs was so interesting. And I was, what do you mean? Because I hadn't said the word verb probably since I was in middle school, and I didn't know quite what she meant. And I don't want to blow it by, misquoting something to your wonderful audience. I'd rather them go to the website and read and read excerpts and listen to excerpts. But that was artistically allowed is really the best phrase I can come up with at the moment.
How can people find out more about the book and about you?
If they want to find out more about the book and a little bit more about me, they can go to kinglillian.com and they can listen to excerpts. They can read about the backstory. They can read excerpts. And again, they can sign up for a few free chapters that will be audio and ebook chapters. And it will also tell them where they can buy it if they are so inclined. And they can also find a little more about me at SuziePlakson.com, SuziePlakson.com. And thanks, folks, for listening.
We've been talking with author and multimedia artist Suzie Plakson. We'll be right back with our next guest. Hi, my name is Debbie Spector-Weissman, and I'm the host of The Dream Power Show. This is the show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to create a life you love. Join us as we explore the world of dreams on The Dream Power Show. You can see behind me that I'm in a gym today. Why is that? Well, you can't have a dream life if you're not physically fit, and we're going to talk about the right way or the best way to get physically fit with my guest today, Patrick Spring. Patrick is a personal trainer and the author of the book Intrinsic Resistance Training, and we'll be meeting him in a moment. So, welcome to Dream Power Radio, Patrick.
Thank you for having me. I'm a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I tell you, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I'm really glad I have the opportunity to do this. So, I want to talk about IRT. What is Intrinsic Resistance Training?
Okay, well, it is a mouthful to start off with, but basically it's a way of doing resistance training and working out in a way where you put your body first, and the way the body should move optimally to lift heavy weight. And that's primarily what it's about. So a way to put resistance on your body and get maximal results to work in the most efficient and effective way possible. And it's a way that you can do whether you're 40 or 20 or even 80. And that's the goal, that it's not a style, it's more based off of what your body is capable of and maximizing that for each workout.
Okay, so how would this be different from what you would do in any ordinary regular gym?
It's a good question. And a lot of times in resistance training nowadays and fitness nowadays, a lot of things are being combined and throwing in, which is a great thing. But intrinsic resistance training is very specific about working around your body and picking out equipment that best suits how the body can move in its major movement patterns. So it's more kind of harnessing the potential of the major movements and making those work for you. So the exercises, again, are you're being very specific about what you're doing with your posture, your understanding about how you're using your core in each exercise. So those are the major differences: the awareness, the body awareness, the listening to your body. Those are the aspects that are really emphasized in intrinsic resistance training.
And you think that a lot of people are actually doing workouts wrong?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are doing workouts that actually damage their body and in the long term are hurting them rather than helping them. And to your point, talking about dreams, how can you dream if you're can't sleep because your neck aches or your lower back aches? So in the vein of trying to do something that's supportive to your health rather than, that's destroying your health, obviously.
Right. Okay, so in your book, you actually come up with a number of principles that can make up your version of IRT. Can you go into that and explain what they are?
Definitely. I have the book here, so I can cheat. I'll make it the brief version. If I don't have the book in front of me, I might go off on long tangents. But just basically, principle one is just listen to your body and work out mindfully. And that's a major aspect. I think so oftentimes when it comes to fitness, we think about working through the pain, and pain is weakness leaving the body, and no pain, no strain, no gain, all those old sayings. But in reality, you really do have to be mindful of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. And if you're not feeling it in the targeted muscle group, or you're feeling something, some weird thing in your lower back, or you can't breathe, maybe you should stop, adjust the exercise. Number two is basically it's going to be posture, because everything's starting from your posture. If you're in the wrong place when you start, you're not going to be able to move once you've started from a position of weakness. And I said that wrong, that's actually number three. Number two is actually breathing, because your breath acts as your inner support. And if you're not breathing right, if you're in a state of fight or flight because you're almost hyperventilating, that's not going to be the best way to work out, because that inner support is every time you're doing that repetitious exercise. That's very important for that to be the foundation of each and everything you do.
And it's very important where you breathe when you're doing the movement of the exercise.
Yeah, when you're the most vulnerable in the exercise, or when the muscles are most extended, generally in those major muscle movements, you want to have the in-breath coming in, so you have that support. So at the bottom of a squat, you want to be breathing in at the bottom, and then you can breathe out at the top when you're standing and you're under less stress. And the other parts of it are being really specific about what's going on with posture, because we think a lot of times about working core, you're just doing crunches and twists and all these things from now the cows come home, which isn't wrong, but if you need to pay attention to when you're in major movements, that you're actually able to maintain optimal posture, because that's core work in a really different, useful and functional way that you need to be aware of.
Yeah, I just want to take a step back and say, tell me your definition of core. What is core in terms of workout movements?
Yeah. In terms of the major movements, core is being able to maintain posture. in opposition to, if you're squatting and your body's being pulled forward, you don't want to overcompensate, but just maintaining that posture is stopping you from, or just maintaining that posture is an effort. Or if you're being pulled back in a push-up, you don't want to let yourself sway, you want to stay nice and neutral. We look at it in obvious plank position. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I'm working my core in a plank when they're static and they're just holding themselves there, but then they get in a push-up and their body's all over the place. So it's just a way of bringing that into each and every major exercise and really being aware from the start that, okay, this is where the exercise is pulling me, my posture. Maintaining neutral is going to be the challenge, and know that if you have a weight in one hand, you're probably going to be pulled one way, so you want to maintain that neutral.
And instead of just talking about it, Patrick is now going to explain and demonstrate some of the exercises that he thinks are key to getting your own physical fitness. So Patrick, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Debbie. Basically, I'm here with a very versatile machine. There's lots of options, but hopefully you can see kind of the through line of where I can perform an exercise on this machine, like say a decline press here, and then you could also go and do something like a seated press that would replicate that. But something that I've seen in hotel gyms often, more so lately in like the last 5 years or so, has been these big cable crossovers. Again, and they're really good because they're very versatile. I also have a kettlebell and a couple dumbbells down here on the floor, which will come into the frame in a few minutes. But for the very beginning, what I want you to think of is every time you're working out, you're being pulled your posture is being pulled out of alignment by the resistance. And so what you want to do in something as basic as a squat, and this is one of the major movement patterns, just a squat, you're being pulled into, especially if you're carrying a weight, in this case, a kettlebell, you're being pulled into a hunch. You don't want to overcompensate and arch. You want to be just right in the neutral position here. So this is one of the major movements here, just squatting with some weight. When you're first starting, you could squat without any weight, or you could even put a chair behind you and just sit down and stand back up. At the beginning, that's what a squat looks like. A lot of times people will say, oh, I can't squat. And I'm like, well, did you get out of your car when you came in here? And they're like, yes. And so I'm saying you can squat in a modified version, and that's what you should do. Because again, listening to your body is important. So if you get in here and you start to squat and you go down below where you usually move and all of a sudden you feel some pain, you want to listen to that and not do that. Again, into that squatting pattern I was showing you, there's a squat. You could also do a front lunge. If you notice, my body's in a squat position on one leg. The back leg's not doing very much work at all. I could do a side lunge, which looks like this from the front. So those are some quick variations that you could do just in a squat pattern. When you go into that side lunge, you're being pulled sideways by momentum, and so what you want to do is just maintain neutral so the core position changes. When you go into the front lunge, the position changes too, because now there's a little bit of a side challenge, and depending on what your arms are doing, there's also a rotational challenge. So the core posture, even though it's here, it might be don't flex over. As you go into one leg, there's also a rotational challenge and a side challenge. When you go into the side, there's also many challenges. So you want to just be aware of that. And the main thing you can think of is just maintaining long spine, and that's the core challenge. What you don't want to do is just start to sway your body and lose your posture or overcompensate and come back the other way instead of maintaining that neutral posture. When it comes to a pulling variation, you can sit and do 2-arm rows. I'm going to do this on a slight angle so you can see it, but you can do 2-arm rows. That's pulling you forward into being flexed. You don't want to overcompensate and overarch. You just want to pull. You can also do alternating arms, or you can do a 1-arm variation. And you can progress up to all different variations, even down to one leg and one arm. If you have really good balance and you're strong and you keep the weight very light and you have a specific reason why you're doing it, you can progress to that. Is with regard to pushing exercises, and that's the third major variation, is pushing. Just you can do a static. First of all, sometimes starting an exercise, just see if someone can hold in the position. In this position, it becomes really apparent, and I switch my legs so you can see from the right side of the body all the way up to the head. I'm in a plank position. So what I don't want to be doing, I want to be maintaining that plank position and using my chest to drive the motion. That's the major motion. What I don't want to do is lock up my arms and start using my body to do the motion, because now I'm using my core in a very different way, and I'm using my shoulders in a way that's probably not going to be very healthy for me in the short term or the long term. Some of the variations you could do with this would be alternating arms. You could do a one-arm press, whatever feels best to keep you in neutral. Sometimes it's holding the opposing arm straight, sometimes it's holding the arm on the hip, just depending on what helps you keep your torso from rotating away. So just that or this. You could also add a slight rotation, again, with very little weight for specific reasons. The more specific you get, the more you want to know exactly what you're doing.
Right, and I just want to say the other variation is the weight you're doing also.
Yes, exactly.
The weights.
Yeah, so you could, that's a big situation is you know, the weight you do and then the amount of sets you do, the amount of reps you do will change accordingly. Again, you're starting out with a very light weight, you're probably going to do a low number of sets with lots of reps and being careful to proper form. As you go heavier in weights, your number of sets will go up and the number of reps will go down. Accordingly, up until the heaviest weight, you might do something where you can get to like 5 sets of 5. So it's a very heavy weight. That's once you've mastered the exercise and you really understand what you should be feeling in that exercise, then it would be safe to progress to that heavier weight. And on a note on that is, don't also be careful not to use way too light of weight, because sometimes you end up doing so many reps or potentially the exercises with the wrong form. Because, for example, you're pulling with such a small amount of weight that you don't actually engage your back muscles and use them, make those the prime movers. You end up just kind of arming it because it's so easy. So if you do reps at weight that's way too light for your body, the problem is there's just so much exposure and there needs to be so much focus that sometimes I would just do body weight, keep the reps, really focus for 10 reps, maximum of 15, and then take a break, reset, and come back and do it again. But here's one last thing I'll give you, just because some dumbbell work you can do. You can do, there's a side plank challenge in here, right? if I'm 2 arms, just a regular shoulder press. But if I start doing alternating arms, now all of a sudden there's a side bend challenge here, or even more so if I'm doing 1 arms. You can also change the leg position for various reasons to kind of load up this hip more. And those are just some options. Just with 2 dumbbells in 1 exercise, there's some variations. When you're doing the heavier weight, it's probably going to be the 2 arms, more stable position or in a seated position. When you go medium weight, maybe it's in alternating arms, and when you go light, you want, within reason, you do a more complex variation. And again, just make sure that you're feeling it in the posture, in the targeted muscle, major prime movers that you're using to get the job done, that you're feeling it where you should be feeling it. So if you're pressing, that you feel it in your chest and you're not just feeling it all in your shoulder joint or in your neck or in your lower back, that, oh, I feel chest and I feel some core demand and I'm able to maintain that. So.
Okay, now Patrick's going to show us a different set of exercises using a different piece of equipment.
Right, and this is a little more specific equipment here. It's a lat pull down variation, and this is just a basic variation here. These are 2 handles instead of a straight bar. So you can bring it down to the sides here without cracking yourself in the head. If you did have a bar, I'd recommend just bringing it in front, not behind the head. For most people, they don't have that mobility. And there's some other factors going on there with the shoulders and the neck position. So just simple lat pull down. On this too, even though it's a specific machine, because it has the cables, it can be slightly versatile in that you can alternate sides, right? When you're doing both sides together, the challenge for posture is that you're being pulled into an arch. You want to maintain neutral. When you start doing the side, not only are you being pulled into that arch, but you're also being pulled sideways, like a side plank challenge. And that's the core emphasis there. If you switch it and make it even more of a core emphasis, you can do it 1 arm at a time with a slightly lighter weight. The other thing you can do is, because it's free in here, you could also do this whole standing up, right? You could also do alternate arms standing up. You could also do 1 arm standing up.
And I see that in those movements, you're keeping your back perfectly straight.
Yeah, from the hip to head in those movements, it's perfectly neutral. And the same goes for this one here. You can do a standing variation, both arms together. You can do alternating. You can do alternating piston. one arms. The possibilities are endless.
We've been speaking with personal trainer Patrick Spring on the Dream Power Show. We'll be right back with our next guest. On the next Dream Power Show, join me and my guests, social activist Tess Cacciatore, Dr. Dream, Kelly Sullivan Walden, artists and dreamers Iva Margaret Dundas and Emily Greaves, and hypnotherapist Bren Blankenship, all on the next Dream Power Show. Today, we're going to shift the focus back to nighttime dreams. And I can't think of anyone I'd rather talk dreams about than with my special guest, Walter Berry. Walter is a certified dream worker, and he has conducted workshops and dream groups for many years. He's on the board of the International Association for the Study of Dreams, and his work has been featured in major newspapers. He's a contributing author to the book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Dreams and Premonitions, and he is working on a new book about dream. So welcome to the Dream Power Show, Walter.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Great. When was the first time that you realized dreams were important to you?
I'll keep it short because that could be a very long story. I was in therapy, trying to recover from an absolute horrific marriage. I hope my ex is not listening. I'm sure she's not. But anyway, I had a precognitive dream, a powerful. It was just a simple one where my mother was talking and said, "Oh, your brother's been caught with his hand in the till." There's this whole thing that went on, and 2 weeks later, my mother called up and said the exact words that were in my. I got my journal out while I was talking to her, and the words that were on the page were the words that she was saying. It was very strange. I had never experienced anything like that before. So I thought, oh my goodness, this is bizarre. How is this even possible? So I thought, okay, there's got to be something to this dream thing. So I started investigating dreams and ended up working with Jeremy Taylor and a number of other people, and the rest is history.
I've heard some of your dreams that you've talked about and the one that you wrote about in the Chicken Soup book. Your dreams, at least the ones that I've heard, tend to be epic and full of incredible detail. How do you do it? How do you remember all of that detail in your dreams?
A lot about remembering your dreams is about preparing for it. When I go to bed at night, I now use a recorder. I use my phone. We've gotten to that phone age now. So I actually take my phone. It sounds silly, but I put up the recording program and I touch the phone and say, okay, I'm going to try to remember a dream. And when I do, I'm going to record it. So what I do is I will wake up. I drink a lot of water at night even. So you end up waking up, So I wake up and I think, okay, and I hold myself, and I have a routine. I hold myself in the position when I wake up from and going, do I have anything there? And usually there's something there. Usually I remember sometimes nothing, but a lot of times 4 or 5 dreams a night. And so there's a way that if you have an intent, it's about setting the intent is the most important piece for me. So I set an intent to remember a dream, and then I sit there and I am unabashed about it. It's like, I don't care what the dream was, because your ego will always try to interfere with that. It'll say, oh, well, you shouldn't be killing somebody in a dream, so you'll tend to ignore it. But I am committed to trying to remember what it is that I'm doing, what I'm saying. And so I get this, and so I record absolutely everything that I can remember at that moment. And then what I do, I also, on the recorder, and it comes out when you listen to it, it's more like, it's like that, that middle of the night voice. But what happens is that then I review the dream. After I've recorded it, I sit there quietly and review the dream a couple of times to see if there's, and usually other things will appear. Sometimes I'll make a second recording. So the dreams tend to be very, very, can be very lengthy and complicated that way. And it's a good way to capture it. If that makes any sense.
Are all of your dreams lengthy and complicated?
No. There's a lot of dreams where, like last night, somebody was dropping rolls of tape on me, just all kinds of colors of tape, just dropping rolls of tape on me. And that was all I remember. So they're not all complex, but a lot of them can be very, very complex. And I love those complex dreams.
Okay, so you have this complex dream and you've written it down and you've got all those details there. Where do you start in terms of trying to understand it and figure it out?
I always, even when I run my dream groups, it's the same thing. Where I start is with the emotion. I always start with that. It's that and it's not the emotion that I feel about the dream. It's the emotion I feel in the dream. That's essential. What is it that I'm feeling? Am I feeling anger? Am I feeling pain? Am I feeling happiness, sadness, whatever it is? All throughout the dream, the first thing I find is that it's about emotion. Because dreams come from they're very emotionally laden for the most part. They are these missives from our own unconscious. They are guides for our lives, and they come with deep emotion. And so that's the first place I start, is with the emotion in the dream. What are the emotions? That's the first spot.
And then where do you take it from there?
There, it's a matter of like, okay, what associations do I have? It's like with the tape dream from last night. It's like, what about tape? What is it about being hit by different colors of tape? What is tape about? I mean, it's an odd symbol, So it's like, I think, okay, why am I dreaming about tape? It's like, so tape. It's like tape holds things together. You start making associations with the elements in the dream, and you find like, oh, tape. I happen to work in the industry where we tape movies and television and things like that. So there's associations. So you start with those associations, and then you find places where things fall together for you, and say, oh, wait a minute, if these things are dropping on my head, and it's about tape, and it's about holding things together. It's like you start feeling associations with that, and that's where the dream. Again, it's not like any magic happens so much all the time, but it's just about trying to find out, what is it that I vibrate with? What is it that in my soul I go, oh, what am I trying to tape up? What am I taped up about? Why are things hitting me in the head? What's hitting me in the head wants to, it's symbolic. Your dreams speak a powerful symbolic language, and it's just wonderful to be able to just go, okay, I'll be open to whatever it is. It's not just one thing; it's a number of things. So it's an amazing thing. If I could go off on a little bit on a tangent here, that in writing this book, it's called Drawn into the Dream, and in it, one of the great discoveries I made was that it's for me, maybe not for everybody else, but I wondered why dreams speak a symbolic language. Why is it tape hitting me in the head? Why doesn't the dream just come out and say, you need to think differently, right? Why doesn't it just announce that instead of doing these symbolic things where you have, people chasing you with knives and all these sort of things? Well, what my discovery was, after a whole bunch of research, a lot of research and writing people about it and scientists and everything else like that, is that what I think, and I think this may have to do with what you're all about, is that I think that what it is underneath it all, at the base layer of who we are, way underneath, like children, when they first thing, before they start walking, they dance. Before they start writing, they draw. There's a way that I think that at the deepest level of the very way beyond underneath everything is that we are all poets, musicians, artists, and philosophers and dancers. That's actually who we are. That part of us sits at the base of who we are. And our job, in a sense, and our dreams bring it to us, is to get connected with that, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? It's like there's a way that I am a poet. We're all poets, not just most of us. All of us have that. And if we can find the elements and the things that are behind what we really are and speak to that. And so that's why dreams speak this symbolic language, because we are poets. We're talking to ourselves in poetry when we have our dreams.
Why make it so difficult?
I don't know. I know why they make it so difficult. I don't know. I think that it's difficult because of our own understanding now, because we are satiated beings that have these powerful learning things that we've done. But if we get back to the basic level of things where we let it all go, if we let it all go and just become our true selves, the dreams will speak a language which we will understand. I think because we're poets, you know.
I think one of the other things is that, you know, in our society, we're kind of taught at an early age to just, you know, step into very specific roles and not allow ourselves to dream.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah. Well, going back to you, spend a lot of time working with dream groups and working with people in groups.
Yes.
Can you give me an example of a time when you've helped somebody understand a dream where it's made a great difference in their lives?
The easiest one is, you probably know Deb Dutil, who's allowed me to talk about her dream. She's actually public about it. So, because usually I keep these anonymous. But she was, she brought a dream to my group. And in the dream, we draw pictures of my group. I always use the visual for my thing. She drew a picture, and it was this dream in which she was walking in the shoes of her husband, who had died 3 years previously. And so, and I went, you know, and there was a whole bunch of other things that went on. It was a very complex dream about seals and a boat and a car and all kinds of stuff. But the part that stuck for me in an intuitive level was this business about walking in the shoes of her dead husband. And I said, how long ago was it that he died? She said, almost 3 years exactly to the date, I believe she said. And I went, you know what? I said, I'm not to be a person but you might want to have your, checked out, because if you're walking in the shoes of your husband, you may be walking in the same path that he did. And I went, oh, okay. But then I thought, So 2 weeks later, she has these horrible headaches. She goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, don't worry about it. Take some. She goes, no, I had this dream, and I worked it in a group, and I have this feeling that, like, do you believe in dreams? And luckily the doctor said, yes, I believe in dreams. So she made him do an MRI, which they never do on this sort of thing. When they did the MRI, they found that the brain tumor, and it was a brain tumor it's the most aggressive form of brain cancer there is. It's the one that John McCain died of. And they cut her skull open. They took this thing out. The average lifespan of a person who has this is 18 months from diagnosis to death. And it's very, very aggressive. She is now 6 years free, cancer-free, because she listened to a dream, because she came into this and drew that. And, that's one example of how people's lives can be changed by dreams. Yes.
Dream you talked about when you first became aware of dreams, it was a precognitive dream. Do you have a lot of precognitive dreams? And
it's sort of like that deja vu thing where you go, I had one where, I think it's in the book, where it saved my life. I was coming down off a ramp and a freeway, and I remembered that I had a dream, but the very same thing, and that there was a truck that passed by. So I stopped, and peeping at me to go, and stuff like that. No, and sure enough, that truck went screaming by. So in a way that there's precognitive dreams that do that sort of thing. Other times they're just, I have a lot. I have I had a whole thing about Katrina before it happened. There was I saw these floating bodies and stuff like that. And when I saw it on the news, it was exactly the same picture that I had seen in my dream. So I don't use it as a sense of like I'm a medium or I understand or I can guide anything. It just comes to me. Sometimes it just comes, and I don't quite understand it all the time, but it happens. It's interesting.
And it is time to make that gentle conclusion to the end of the program. So again, thank you so much for being on the Dream Power Show today. And we have been talking with Dream Master Walter Berry. I hope you've enjoyed today's show, and I hope you come in and listen next time. But until then, sweet dreams, everybody. Bye.